Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am Aaron, and this is the Inclusive Dad podcast where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Jon Zweifler. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Why don't you just start us off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am an autism parent of an awesome autistic and verbally challenged 11-year-old, the bear man, as we like to call him. And I'm also the founder of Read AI, which is an iPad app that is essentially a natural language learning platform for kids where natural language just doesn't feel that natural to them. So it, sort of grabs the language like we're having right now, right out of the air, and transforms it right on the iPad in the moment into sensory learning experiences to help them understand faster in the moment, but also provide reinforcement, sort of learning moments so that that language they're being exposed to can really stick for dummy parents like me who do not have a master's in speech and language pathology. So that is my purpose and my passion. And we reside here in Philadelphia, PA. So
That's great. What is your definition of inclusion?
sure. So inclusion for me is really not so much a sentiment or an idea, because sentiment doesn't scale, but systems do. So for me, inclusion is really about thinking of the systems that we live in. So it's not that warm feeling or that slogan that you hear or see here and there. It needs to be baked into the existing systems that we all live in every day to enable comparable experiences for folks who experience the world differently than maybe you or me. So that's the tools you provide, the expectations you set, the environment that you create for someone to be able to truly participate in ways that feel natural and normal to them. Because you can have a room full of very kind people, and still create a space that's just impossible to access. If the rules are invisible or the transitions are unstructured, the sensory load is high, and the only sort of support arrives once something's gone off the rails, right?
Mhm.
All of a sudden, the inclusion sort of disappears in those moments where it gets stressful for people. So, from my perspective, inclusion really needs to be sort of built in to the defaults of our everyday life, where it just shows up, in in the typical world, not just when everyone's sort of having a good day.
Yeah, that's a great definition. How close do you think we are to having it there, or being at that point?
I think I don't think we're very close. I will say that we're having conversations like this louder and more often and to broader audiences. And we have advisors on Reed who grew up in a system that didn't exist for them. So, I mean, if you look 20, 30 years ago, we I couldn't imagine having been a parent 20 or 30 years ago with a child on the spectrum. So we are making steady progress. But it's I think we have to face. I'm a product designer, so I always think of like, okay, like what are the pain points and what are the solutions and how do you bring everyone together? And I think one thing as a neurotypical person who is very invested in the divergent world and life, I'm able to see it from both sides of the coin, or both sides of the table, and the realist in me says, hey, look, everybody is really well intentioned, but the neurotypical world is only going to adapt so much. So, how do we take the existing sort of typical systems and find ways for them to be easily adaptable that essentially don't require any work from people who mean well but don't really actually don't want to adapt their data. They sort
Right.
of, I like my day-to-day life. And that's why here at with Reed we latched on to this notion of natural language, because I was like, we are literally drowning in this free, unlimited resource that like doesn't discriminate on socioeconomic standing, doesn't care where you live. Like natural language is surrounding us all the time, and I don't expect to be able to train the rest of the world into how to communicate in different ways. So how can we take that existing system and find ways for it to adapt for whether it's kids or adults so that they can understand more and learn better. So yeah, I'm a big believer in, yes, there are things that have to change, but also how can we take the status quo of today and find ways to adapt it where everyone's like, oh yeah, that's fine, like, oh yeah, we didn't have to change, oh yeah, yeah, come on in, that's great.
Yeah, yeah, it is a great point. Like how to use technology to, yeah, you are right. People are only going to go so far. I mean, I have a 20, my daughter Cecilia, she's 23, uses a power wheelchair. And I mean, there's still
Hmm.
curbs in, I mean, our town, most towns we go to, they don't have curb cuts, and that's 30 years after ADA. So like, how do we, I mean, it's similar, but how do we, what can we do ourselves to, make it more accessible? Because you're right, it is. You can't hit that ceiling, and then how do we do things that aren't gonna make have other people have to do more effort to make it more inclusive? So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
When you use when
oh,
you use the
sorry.
word natural language, what does that mean? I think I know what it means, but what does that
That
mean?
means the language that you hear or see in everyday life. So it could be a street sign, could just be how we're talking right now.
Okay, cool. Growing up, did you have any exposure to disability or autism, or what was your experience with it?
Not to autism in particular. My
Yeah.
mother worked for years at the ARC of Essex
Okay.
County
Yep.
in New Jersey. Um, I was always exposed to. I mean, and this was 20 years ago. The purpose and the mission and the services, the sort of ongoing
Right.
need for pushing for more services and better services and opportunities. But yeah, I mean, I was your run of the mill dummy new parent, and then
Mhm.
who went through all those natural stages of denial and like, oh no, he's fine, yeah, every kid's different, and into sort of understand embracing that it's like, okay, my kid's on a different path, which also required me to sort of, as I like to say, unload a lot of my own crap that was just not helpful.
Right.
And I uh, one way I always describe it is I hit a certain point where I decided if I wasn't going to ask or expect my son to mask in everyday life, then I wasn't going to mask about, on the playground of like, oh, sorry, oh, da, da, da. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
look, this is Bear. And, it's like he's on the spectrum. So it's like, let me help you understand why, it's like he may have reacted like that or he didn't ask when he, got the toy. And it's like, this is our life. So I'm glad I could explain it to you. But yeah, no more apologies on this end.
Yeah, yeah, I like finding out like what people's like experience was growing up with disability. Because for me, I don't remember hearing the word disability, not seeing anybody in a wheelchair. So yeah, when my daughter was born, it was all brand new, and it's like, wow, there's all this stuff out here that I didn't even know existed. So
Yeah,
learning it all at that point. So yeah, it's interesting to hear like people's connection or if they, how they experienced it. So yeah, for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Is he verbal at all, or is he nonverbal, like completely
Yeah, no,
nonverbal?
I mean, we say minimally verbal, which is to say, it's not his preferred mode of expression or communication. He certainly can and does when he's really motivated. Um, but yeah, I mean, everything that we're doing at Reed is not, sort of perfect for my son, but the inspiration was like, hey, this natural language does not feel natural to him. Like, where he's just like, I will do this because I do want a bagel right now, but like, come on. I'm also fairly certain Bear's mom, my spouse, is she's fairly convinced that they just have mother son telepathy happening. So it's like, yeah, he's talking to us. It's just like we can't hear it.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, have you heard like the telepathy tapes podcast? Have you listened to some of that stuff?
I have, I have.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, I'm. It's important to note, it's like I'm not an expert in this field. I just play one
Yep.
on TV.
Yep.
But I'm as my lived experience has taught me that um, you know I'm very hesitant to rule out anything that
Hmm.
is making a positive impact in folks' life. Like I know spelling is a very controversial communication
Hmm.
method right now, and yes, has there been 20 years of efficacy research and what evidence to prove it? No. Is it unlocking communication for some kids or some people? Yeah. So it's like, yes, okay, the jury's still out, but in the meantime, we're all here living our lives. So if
Yep.
it's helping, great.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I've listened to some of the telepathy podcasts and I watched Spellers that documentary or whatever. I mean, it's yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like, is it not what everybody's doing? Yeah, but it's I mean, it there I mean, if those for those families it's working. So I mean, if it's working, I mean, it's I'm
Who am
not
I to
judging.
judge?
I mean,
Yeah.
no. I got enough stuff going on in my life to have that people
Exactly.
can judge. I don't need to judge other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just yeah, we watched that Speller and man, that was my emotions were really high because like just seeing the parents sitting there and hearing their children like speaking like that way for the first time and just like putting yourself in their shoes like man, like we can see like they were wish we would have known this earlier and all the the guilt they had, but at the same time like the joy of their child being able to communicate, it was pretty powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's expressive language. It's just a different modality, right? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just got goosebumps as you were saying that. Like, those moments are precious in families where communication isn't a given.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter, she is, I mean, I say she's somewhat verbal. Like I can understand her, because I'm around her all the time. But I mean, if
Yeah.
somebody's doesn't know her, they might struggle understanding the words. But yeah, we tried like what do you call those? Probably, I mean, some
Oh yeah,
communication devices.
ABC.
Yeah, she just did not want to do that. So it's like, well, you can't, it's hard to force somebody to do it. So she does. She prefers to speak, orally. But we had the same, as like all the testing in school is either you have to be verbal or fine motor. She also has cerebral palsy, so
Right.
testing her was hard. So her tests were always low. But she'll come over. She'll be sitting there, throw out a word I've never heard her use before
Yeah.
that's complicated in context, and you're like, what did you just say? Like, how
Yeah.
did you never heard that word out of your mouth, but you use it perfectly well in context. So there's stuff. She's understanding more than she's able to, relate to us, which is interesting.
And I mean, it's not just English, like, our, whatever that sort of first or native language is.
Right.
My son, his special interest has always been Curious George.
Okay.
And it's one of his, like regulation activities. He'll watch different episodes, but there's only so many episodes, right? So, like, he started watching them in different languages so that it was like
Mm.
new. And now, like, his Spanish language vocab is starting to compete with his English. Like the other day, we were like, "Okay, time to get your shoes," and he's like, "Zapatos," and we're like, "Are you seriously?" I had to get on Duolingo because I'm like, I think I have to brush up on my high school Spanish if
Oh
this is going to
man.
be the language of our household. So these kids are smart as hell.
Yeah.
It's just the system isn't designed for how
Yeah.
their brain likes to process and execute on this stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. You ever seen? I don't know if you can see this. Have you heard of this
Yep,
book? Yeah. Have
I
you read it?
haven't. No, no.
So
Decoding Cody.
this is a new book that just came out in November. I'm actually going to interview the author, but it's about
Wow.
secrets of the spectrum from people with autism who see, hear, and smell in the unseen realm. So more about that.
Oh, wow.
I've read it, and some of the people are able to see angels and demons and talk to
Mm.
Jesus and stuff. So it's some of that more of that same stuff. It's very interesting. I grew up Baptist, and that stuff's just not. it's a little out of the realm of what we talked, but like again, like I said, I mean, if they're experiencing it, who am I to question
Yeah.
that they are or not?
Hey.
Just because I haven't had that experience of seeing angels or talking to Jesus doesn't mean other people aren't able to. So, but
Yeah.
it definitely opens your mind though. It's like, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it gets to you never question what typical is until
Yeah.
you're living a divergent life. And
Yep.
then all of a sudden you're like, that's what normal is? That's what typical is? Like,
Right.
so yeah, it's eye-opening across the spectrum.
Yeah. So how did you make, or what did you do before you started working on Read, or what was your
Sure.
background?
I have been in product design and product strategy in the sort of digital product space for decades. Working in big mega corporations. Was at Facebook and Comcast, based here in Philly. Was at American Express before that. Um, but really, your sort of run of the mill understanding, customers and users. What are their pain points and how do they define value, and then identifying ways for software experiences to be able
Mm-hmm.
to either make things easier or add new value that they didn't have before, which I love. It's what I'm born to do.
Hmm.
But the I used to say I'm not returning to office, I'm returning to purpose. The world is not becoming a better place if I find a more efficient way to sell people credit cards. I was starting to feel an increasingly large sort of gap in my soul for a little while. And honestly, Read started as a side of table thing where I've been very fortunate. My son goes to an amazing school called the Talk School, which is just outside of Philadelphia. And the educators, the range of different therapists there, just the environment is really special, and we are super fortunate. And I just, it started out as pro bono. I was just sort of like, hey, you guys are amazing. And, we would look, Bear has these binders of like sound books and new words, and
Hmm.
they were all handmade, which like warmed my heart. But as a product guy, I was like, that doesn't scale. I'm like, if you're doing this for
Hmm.
every kid, I'm like, you're gonna burn out. And we love you guys. You guys can't burn out. And as I sort of just defaulted to that, like, hey, help me understand your day and your tools, and what's really annoying, and what do you wish was easier. Pretty quickly I was like, I think that there is a product here. That side of desk projects started creeping more and more into all I could really think about, or all I was really motivated by. And once I started really doing the research, it's like, oh, this isn't a niche issue. There's like millions of homes in the U.S. who are sort of improvising through the same types of challenges. So it's really nice to put purpose back with product
Yeah.
for me.
So is it something you see where like the kids will use it at home and then they were able to take it with them to school and the school also lets them use it, or is it just like a home thing, or what do you see
Yeah,
that
so
working?
it's designed to stand alone. Like if you just use it at home, it's great for that. It gets sort of exponentially better the more it's not really about being at home, it's about going with you in your everyday life. So for most kids, that's, it's like, oh, we've got OT on Thursday and speech on Tuesday, and some kids will be in a special ed program, and yeah, but it's really intended to sort of ride along, as we say. Like it's not, we don't want it to be this layer between actually like interacting with people, but we want it to be that sort of sidekick that you can pull in and push out to really sort of help shortcut to understanding better. So you mentioned AAC before, and I'd say like the difference between Read and an AAC is like AAC is designed for two-way communication. That is the purpose of that tool and product. Read is really trying to go one step, half step back, where it's really about two-way understanding. Like, how do we take this language that needs decoding and sort of create this understanding layer for us to be able to be like, oh, like an example we always use in our house is, hey, Bear, do you want cream cheese or peanut butter on your bagel, and he's a Gestalt language processor. So he associates meaning with whole phrases versus, how a lot of us learned where it's like we learn a word and then, it's truck and then big truck and
Hmm.
then big blue truck. He learns like, hey, cool, big blue truck, and that has specific meaning for him. So his
Hmm.
response to me is typically, or has typically been, cream cheese and peanut butter. And I'm like, I know, bud. You just like you really want your bagel, and you know that I know that you would prefer cream cheese, but I'm trying to get you to choose.
Right.
Uh, and now, it's like being able to even just sort of, push read into a moment like that, where it's like, okay, like let's understand that all that noise is actually these things that and how do we start, sort of breaking down those larger phrases so that they're learning from little everyday stuff, like what do you want on your
Right.
bagel, but also starting to bridge into any word you tap and read. The awesome therapists that we've been working with have sort of been the experts on what are the different like language acquisition and literacy methods that they use in different
Mhm.
ways, so that it's like you can tap a word, you can slide your finger across to break down the syllables, understand how those sounds come together. You can write it out, so you can start associating those letter forms with certain, just like things that are the bread and butter of the therapy world, but just making that sort of effortless and accessible in moments where you could be going through the grocery store and being like, hey, it's like we're going to do a vegetable scavenger hunt because we need vegetables, and finding new ways for everyday connection that reinforces learning is really sort of what our North Star is.
So your example of where you asked him if he wants cream cheese or peanut butter on his bagel, how does Reed help in that situation? Does it come up like on the screen and he can like dissect it, or can you maybe explain like how that would help that scenario?
Sure. Oh, it's too bad. I should have done a screen share of Reed. I'll send you that exact scenario
Okay.
in a little bit. But there's two ways, and it's sort of tuned based on where that learner is at in
Okay.
their learning growth. Um, but it either does what we call a word flow, which is seeing the natural language that is just being said, broken out into these sort of bite-sized chunks, and then core words like nouns, vowels, etc. They appear as cards within that that string. So you would see cream cheese and peanut butter and bagel and like what do you want? And tapping on any of those allows you to sort of dive into it's like, well, it voices it back out. So you get, if your kid isn't super expressive, it helps to get that confirmation. But yeah, puts those little reinforcement learning moments right away. And I'll send you a video capture
Sure.
after. And
Yeah.
you're welcome to join the beta if you have
Yeah.
an iPad. We're looking to road test this in as many real life houses as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, my daughter does. I mean, it's not the same, but if I ask her between two choices, she always tells me both. So, like, do you want this or this?
I don't know if
Both. It's
Reed
like,
can
God
solve
dang
for
it.
that. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we have dessert. Do you want pie or a brownie? Both. Like it's,
Both.
I mean, I don't even know why I ask anymore. It's like if it's two choices, it's always
Yeah,
both, or
that
if
would be
it's
my
three, it's
answer
all.
too, in her defense. Yeah.
But I mean, she's 23. I probably asked her that for 15 years now, and I still ask her. So
Yeah.
I
She's
should
like,
just like,
still
do you
both.
want both? I don't even
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? Uh, Gosh, I hang out with my family. Bear has an awesome younger sister, Zoe, who's 7, who is like just the ally of the century. They are best friends, and uh, you know, I'm not an expert in parenting, but whatever we did there, super happy about that.
Yeah,
Um, and they're into different stuff. Zoe's big into anything arts and crafts. We're constantly painting things and building things
sure.
and then painting them and creating
Yeah,
art shows. Um, and yeah, the what I'm getting a little bit to the sort of practical tip that I was going to mention before, but one thing with Bear that once the sort of the switch flipped for me um, was this idea of like being together but apart. Like there are lots of times where Bear and I will be, on the couch and he'll be watching a
Hmm.
show and I'll be doing whatever. And he's super calm and he's happy and he comes over and he wants me to tickle him and stuff like that. And, it's like we're spending time together, even though like in a typical setting, you'd be like, oh, like engage with them and da da da. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, no, in this world, it's like me peppering him with questions and you want to do this and that is like going to stress him out. Like he's going to
Hmm.
be like, I don't want to hang out with you. So yeah, um, we do a lot of hanging out, trying to teach the kids how to ride bikes.
Hmm.
That cliche is tough.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, I'm at a stage in my life where I've really just prioritized. Well, A, being as present as I can for someone who's always thinking about, this thing or that thing for work. But also, just really maintaining and re-engaging with friends that, it's like you have a kid, you wake up, it's 10 years later, and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I
Right.
haven't talked to that person who used to be my best friend in a decade.
Right.
Like, we
Yeah.
should do that. Um, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess, just focusing on relationships and keeping those good.
Yeah. Have you been able to connect with other fathers and of kids with autism, or do you have like a community of other guys you can talk to about this kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, it's interesting to sort of see the evolution because we've been doing this long enough now that we're becoming the like, oh, hey, you know, this new father thinks,
Mhm.
they're asking some of the similar questions. Can you share your perspective and your experience? Um, the you know, I I didn't require or I didn't seek out, sort of like a formal, sort of group per se, in part because the ability to identify neurodivergence now it has become so good, even though the ability to serve it has sort of plateaued. Um, it's like you throw a rock and it's like, oh yeah, oh you have a kid, who's
Mhm.
neurodivergent. Um, so in that regard, it's the at least in our little world, there hasn't been a lot of stigma around, um, parents in Zoe's. I remember in her preschool. They were wondering, they're like, I don't know, I think one of our boys, we're seeing things that might be symptoms but we don't really know, and being able to just like have them over, have a coffee, share what we think, again, like we're not physicians or anything, but
Mhm.
helping to at least offer um, some clarity in terms of like here are things to try or here are the right questions to focus on,
Yeah.
in what is always, as I'm sure just a ocean of ambiguity and what the heck am I supposed to do and what
Right.
do I do after that?
Yeah. That's good that you've been able to find some people at least. I mean, for me, it's yeah, it's just it's usually for what I've found, like guys just don't like walk up to each other. Hey, I have a kid. And my
Yeah,
daughter's in a wheelchair. It's not what you lead off with. So trying to
right,
find
right.
people that you're able to talk to about that stuff is always good for sure. So yeah.
Well, it goes back to that, like, I took my mask off. I'm very when people are like, "Oh, do you have kids?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've got Bear. He's 11. Zoe's 7. You know, Zoe is crazy and precocious. Bear's awesome and super smart, and he's on the spectrum." And I just like, for me, it's not this like, "Oh, when should we reveal it?" It's like I'm a big believer that when you have someone you love or someone in your world who is neurodivergent, your family becomes divergent, and you gotta embrace that. There's no, it's just that's your life, so you better love it.
Yeah, I do something similar when I meet people. Just kind of explain I have a daughter. She has cerebral palsy and epilepsy, and I don't know if this has happened to you, but pretty often when I do that, like all of a sudden, like somebody will just start sharing with me like details of
Hmm.
their life. Like I just met them and they're like telling me stuff. I'm like, wow, that's pretty deep. Like that's intense.
Yeah.
Like, but there's something about like just sharing some details of your life that just opens people up to like share a bunch of
thousand
stuff too.
percent. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, no, no,
There's been some
no.
times though it's like, okay, I just met you. This I'm not sure I
Yeah, yeah,
this is a lot of stuff
too
here.
much
Like
too
this is pretty deep.
soon.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I mean. I'm honored that people feel comfortable and they want I'm safe to share stuff with, so that's a nice part of
Yeah,
it. But yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What is one tip you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? So just something anybody can start doing today to be more inclusive.
So my tip goes back to what I was alluding to before, where like together doesn't necessarily mean doing the identical thing, or
Hmm.
belonging doesn't require like matching behavior. So yeah, it's like for me, inclusion can be really simple. In my world and life, it's often about being together, even if we're not doing the same thing. So same space, shared time, shared, sort of comfort and safety. But potentially different activities. So for a lot of kids, the first step isn't like, join the group. The first step is, stay near the group and feel safe, sort of ride along. Um, and adults often think like togetherness means that matching of like joint attention, like we are going to play a board game together and, what
Right.
have you. But, for a lot of neurodivergent kids, that matching is the hardest part. So togetherness can be, sort of like proximity and membership.
Hmm.
And, you're welcome here. You're part of us. Even if that engagement looks different, because when we embrace that, sort of like the pressure drops and the pleasure can sort of rise. So yeah, my tip is, you know, when you're trying to have those moments of togetherness, it doesn't have to be about doing the same thing together. It's about being together and enjoying each other's company and space. And it's just that another divergent slice of life.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I don't think anybody's ever said that. Yeah, but just bringing it is interesting because I don't know if it's from my childhood, but yeah, as a family, like if you're doing stuff together, like we have to be doing the same exact thing, which so yeah, that's interesting.
And I think we're also, I mean,
Yeah,
I know I'm wired for like, oh, is there like dead space in the conversation? Like jump in there. And it's like,
right.
okay, it's like that's not always like it doesn't always make things better or more connected to be sort of constantly engaging.
Yeah, for sure. Where's the best place for everybody to connect with you?
So meetread.ai is our website. You can contact me through that, as well as we're always really sort of raising topics and awareness, like very much like pretty much everything we've talked today, through our Instagram channel, which is also Meet Read, and really looking to spark true conversations around these things. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I just figuring out my and my family's way through this journey. But we only got to the place we did by learning from other folks, getting insight and support about when to be worried and when not, and what baggage to unload. But being able to say things out loud, it is extremely therapeutic, I have found. So I encourage you to come and say things out loud with me and any other folks who want to chime in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Ready for the last question?
Oh, let's do it.
Do you like spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
I do.
That's fast. So I live near Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam and where the spam museum is. So I've been asking all my guests, and
Oh,
like everybody is like a super fast yes or a super fast no. There's no like waiting 5 seconds to decide. It's usually quick.
I know myself. I can also sense my wife being like, please tell me that you didn't just tell the world that you really like spam. But that is not a shared thing between Kate and I.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's funny.
yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
you know?
But yeah, so if you ever want to visit the Spam Museum, you got to come to southern Minnesota. So that's where it's at. But it
All
is kind of
right.
cool. They got a lot of history stuff. It's pretty fun. And Austin has about like 27,000 people, and it brings like over 100,000 people a year to town to
Wow.
go to it. So it's pretty
Well,
popular.
if you're our tour guide, we'll do it.
There you go. And when you go in there, they have somebody walking around with a tray with spamples on it, like
I was
little chunks
hoping,
of
yeah.
spam with a pretzel in it. You can taste test it. So
I'm getting pretty hungry right now, if I'm honest.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Aaron, thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate this. I appreciate you, and I love that you're spearheading these conversations. It matters. So thank you.
Thank you. To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.
Here, here. Thank you so